Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel back in time, to a world not of one humanity, but of many. Imagine waking up not in your bed, but on a carpet of damp moss, the air sharp and cold against your face. This is the world of the last great ice age, and you are not alone. In the shadows of the forests and across the frozen plains, your cousins are stirring. They are human, but they are not your kind of human. Tonight, we unravel the greatest mystery in our species' history. How, out of a planet teeming with different kinds of people, we are the only ones left. We will meet the formidable Neanderthals, uncover the ghostly Denisovans from a single fossilized finger, and journey to a lost island of real-life hobbits. We'll investigate the secrets of our own ancestors' success, a story of cunning, connection, and perhaps a touch of darkness. Let's be honest, dropped into that world with just your wits, you probably wouldn't survive the first week. So, before you get too comfortable and drift away, take just a second to show some support for the channel by liking the video and subscribing. It truly helps keep these stories coming. As always with our videos, the visuals aren't essential to the story. They are just here to add a little extra atmosphere for those who want it. I'd also love to see where in the world and what time it is for you, so feel free to drop a comment below. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel. Now, find that perfect spot. Let your head sink into the pillow, dim the lights, and let's begin our journey back to a lost world together. The first thing you notice as you lie there on the cold earth is the silence. It's a different kind of quiet than you're used to. It's not the absence of noise, but a fullness of it. The whisper of wind through immense primeval pines, the distant crack of a glacier, the low hoot of an owl so large it could carry off a small dog. This is a world without the hum of electricity, without the drone of distant traffic. It is a world that is profoundly, deeply alive. You sit up, pulling a rough animal hide tighter around your shoulders. The air smells of wet soil, wood smoke, and something else. Something wild and musky. You are camped with your small band, your family. You are Homo sapiens, the new arrivals. And as the dawn breaks, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and soft orange, you realize the world is far more crowded than you ever imagined. You see them in the distance, a flicker of movement by the tree line. Another family group, perhaps. But as they move into a clearing, you see they are different. Shorter, immensely powerful, with heavy brows and a kind of rugged strength that makes you feel fragile. They move with an unhurried confidence, masters of this cold, hard land. These are the Neanderthals, the Ice Age kings. For hundreds of thousands of years, this has been their world. You are the intruder, the lanky, awkward newcomer from the warm south. And they are not the only ones. If you could see the whole planet laid out before you, it would look less like a family tree and more like a tangled, thorny bush of humanity. In the caves of a mountain range far to the east, another kind of human lives, so elusive they will be known to our time by little more than a child's finger bone and a few scattered teeth. The Denisovans. On a remote, jungle-choked island in Southeast Asia, a tiny species of human, barely 3 feet tall, hunts pygmy elephants with stone tools. Flores, who we will one day nickname Hobbits. On another island nearby, yet another distinct human lineage, the Luzonensis, is living out its days. And deep in the heart of Asia, the last remnants of an ancient globe-trotting dynasty, Homo erectus, may still be walking the earth, a species that has existed for nearly 2 million years. Your own species, by comparison, is a mere infant at 300,000. This is the great, forgotten truth of our existence. For almost the entirety of our history, we shared this planet with our relatives. It was normal. The idea of being the only human species would have seemed bizarre, even lonely. Imagine a world with 6 different kinds of people, 6 different ways of thinking, of dreaming, of seeing the world, 6 sets of footprints in the mud. Today, there is only one. This fact raises the most profound and unsettling question of our origin story. Why us? What happened to everyone else? It's a question that keeps paleoanthropologists up at night, a grand mystery where the crime scene is the entire planet and the trail of evidence is millions of years cold. There was no single dramatic event, no planetary cataclysm that targeted everyone but us. Their disappearance was a slow, agonizing fade to black, a drama that played out over 100,000 years, one valley, one forest, one generation at a time. Were we better hunters? Smarter? More ruthless? Or were we just luckier? Historians and scientists still argue passionately over the cause, a debate that touches the very core of what it means to be human. Some believe it was a quiet replacement, a simple matter of us being slightly better at surviving and having more babies. Others whisper of a darker story, one of confrontation and conflict. As you watch that other human family, the Neanderthals, disappear back into the trees, you feel a strange mix of fear and curiosity. They are the ghosts of a different human potential, a road not taken. Their world is about to collide with yours. And in that collision, the fate of all humanity will be decided. You pull your furs tighter, the morning chill sinking into your bones. The world feels huge, ancient, and full of rivals. You are just one small, struggling branch on a great human tree, and a storm is coming that will snap all the others, leaving you standing alone. You don't know it yet, but you are living at the dawn of the great vanishing. You decide to follow them, moving as quietly as you can. Your lanky frame, so well suited for long-distance travel across the warm savannas of your African homeland, feels clumsy and out of place here. Every snapped twig under your leather-wrapped feet sounds like a thunderclap. The group you are tailing, the Neanderthals, moves with a ground-eating purpose that is both intimidating and strangely graceful. They are a force of nature, perfectly sculpted for this world of ice and wind. Their bodies are a masterclass in biological engineering. A wide nose and large sinuses warm the frigid air with every breath. Their short, stocky limbs and barrel chests are designed to conserve heat, a physique that would win no modern swimsuit competitions, but is ruthlessly efficient at surviving a blizzard. Their bones are thicker, their muscles denser. An average Neanderthal, male or female, could probably win a wrestling match with the strongest person in your Sapiens clan without breaking a sweat. You follow them to their home, the mouth of a wide, limestone cave overlooking a river valley. The scent of roasting meat and wood smoke is stronger here, a comforting, domestic smell that is universal to all humans. You watch from a cluster of snow-dusted firs as they go about their evening. This is no caricature of a grunting caveman. What you see is a family. A child, small and sturdy, stumbles after a piece of flint, watched over by an older woman with a heavily scarred arm. 2 males are expertly butchering a wild horse, their powerful hands wielding stone flakes with surgical precision. Their tools, which we now call the Mousterian industry, are masterpieces of function. They are not fancy, but each blade, each scraper, each point is perfectly suited for its purpose, a technology refined and perfected over 100,000 years of trial and error. To them, it's just a tool. To you, it's a sign that you have profoundly underestimated your neighbors. Their lives are unimaginably hard. Every skeleton we've ever found of an adult Neanderthal shows evidence of serious, traumatic injury. Broken bones, deep wounds, signs of brutal confrontations. It's the kind of injury profile you would expect to see today in a professional rodeo rider, which makes sense when you understand how they hunted. While your people, the Sapiens, are beginning to experiment with long-range weapons like spear throwers, allowing you to hunt from a relatively safe distance, the Neanderthals are specialists in up-close and personal takedowns. They hunt the giants of the Ice Age, mammoths, woolly rhinos, massive cave bears, by getting right next to them, using their immense strength to drive heavy, stone-tipped spears into their prey. It's an incredibly effective, but ridiculously dangerous way to make a living. The modern workplace health and safety advisor would have a field day, but it would be a grave mistake to see them only as muscle. As you watch them, you see something else. The woman with the scarred arm is tending to an older male who is missing several teeth and has a withered leg. He is clearly past his prime, unable to hunt or contribute much physically. In a world this harsh, where every mouth is a burden, he should be a liability. Yet, they care for him. They feed him, keep him warm. This is compassion. This is a complex social bond. It is the deep, quiet hum of a shared humanity. For a long time, we, in our comfortable future, would assume they lacked the spark of higher thought, of symbolism, of art. But the evidence, sparse as it is, whispers a different story. One of the hunters wears something around his neck. It's a string of immense eagle talons, carefully notched and polished. It is not a tool. It serves no practical purpose. It is decoration. It is a statement. Elsewhere, in other caves across their vast European empire, they will leave behind other clues. Pierced shells, coated in red ochre, a vibrant pigment they mined and used extensively. There are even abstract scratches on a cave wall in Gibraltar that some scientists, in a fiercely contested debate, argue is the first example of Neanderthal art. What does it mean? Was the hunter who wore the talons a great leader? Was it a spiritual talisman? We will never know for sure. But it is a crack in the old portrait of them as simple-minded brutes. It is a hint of a mind that could think in symbols, that could see beauty, that could assign meaning to the world beyond just food and fire. And could they speak of it? Could they tell stories around that flickering fire? For decades, we assumed their voices were limited to grunts and shrieks. But the discovery of a Neanderthal hyoid bone, a small, U-shaped bone in the neck that anchors the tongue and is crucial for speech, changed everything. It was virtually identical to yours. Anatomically, they had the hardware for complex speech. Whether they had the mental software for it is another question that keeps researchers arguing late into the night. But as you watch them now, their interactions, the gestures, the low sounds that pass between them, it feels like more than just grunts. You sense a shared understanding, a history, a culture passed down not just by imitation, but by instruction. For 300,000 years, they have been the kings of this continent. They have survived ice ages that would have shattered a lesser people. They are deeply, profoundly intelligent in their own way, masters of their environment. They are the apex predators, the seemingly invincible rulers of this frozen world. And you are the new, fragile variable they have not yet accounted for. As the last light fades and the fire in their cave glows brighter, a beacon of warmth in the immense frozen dark, they seem eternal, permanent. But their long, lonely reign is coming to an end. The world is changing, and the arrival of your small, clever, and endlessly restless species is the quiet beginning of their long twilight. Leaving the Neanderthal camp behind, you turn your gaze eastward, a journey of thousands of miles across sweeping grasslands and towering mountain ranges. Your own Sapiens people are trickling this way too, but the lands you travel through are not empty. Another kind of human watches you from the hillsides, a people so secretive and mysterious that for the next 50,000 years, Their very existence will remain a complete secret to your descendants. They are the ghosts of the human family, the Denisovans. You will not see them clearly, not like you saw the Neanderthals. They are a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, a strangely shaped footprint in the mud of a riverbank, a whisper on the wind. Their story is one of the most astonishing in all of human history, not for what we know, but for how we came to know it. Your journey ends at a place we will one day call Denisova Cave, a cavern nestled in the foothills of the Altai Mountains in Siberia. To you, it's just a place of shelter, a good spot to wait out a sudden snow squall. The cave has been a popular piece of real estate for a very long time. For hundreds of thousands of years, it has served as a home, a hotel, and a crossroads for different human groups passing through. Neanderthals have lived here. Your own Sapiens ancestors will eventually leave their mark here. And the Denisovans, they have made this place their own. As you huddle in the back of the cave, you find a small, discarded object in the dirt. It's a tiny bone, no bigger than your thumbnail. It looks like it came from a child's hand. You toss it aside, unremarkable. But in that one tiny fragment, a whole lost branch of humanity is waiting to be discovered. Fast forward 50,000 years. It's 2010. Scientists are analyzing that same pinky bone, which they've nicknamed the X-woman fragment. They managed to extract ancient DNA from it, and what they find sends a shockwave through the world of paleoanthropology. The DNA does not match that of a Neanderthal, and it certainly doesn't match that of a modern human. It is something entirely new, a third distinct branch of the human family tree that no one even knew existed. They name this new species after the cave where they were found, the Denisovans. For the first time, an entire species of human has been discovered, not by a skull or a skeleton, but by the genetic ghost hiding in a single, tiny bone. It's the archaeological equivalent of finding an alien civilization by analyzing a single discarded bottle cap. Since that first discovery, the clues have slowly trickled in. A few massive molars, so big they were nicknamed Yeti teeth by some wags, turned up in the same cave. More recently, half of a mandible found on the Tibetan Plateau, nearly 11,000 feet above sea level, was identified through protein analysis as Denisovan. This was a bombshell. It suggested that the Denisovans were not just Siberian cave dwellers, but a widespread and incredibly hardy people, adapted to life in the brutal, low-oxygen environments of the roof of the world. This is our first real, quirky tidbit about them. They may have been the original high-altitude specialists. In fact, a specific gene that helps modern Tibetans thrive at high altitudes appears to be a direct inheritance from their Denisovan ancestors. They didn't just survive in the mountains. They passed the secret of how to do so into our own DNA. But who were they? What did they look like? This is where the story becomes a fascinating exercise in scientific guesswork. Without a full skull or skeleton, we are left to reconstruct them from their genetic code. The picture that emerges is tantalizingly incomplete. Their DNA suggests they had dark skin, dark hair, and dark eyes. It also hints at a robust build, perhaps similar to the Neanderthals, with a broad chest and a wide face. But this is still just a sketch, an educated guess. One of the great scholarly debates still raging is the sheer diversity of the Denisovans. Were they one cohesive group, or was Denisovan a catch-all term for a whole range of archaic humans spread across Asia, from the frigid north to the tropical south? Some researchers speculate that mysterious fossils found in China, like the Dali and Harbin crania, which don't quite fit with Homo erectus or Neanderthals, might actually be the long-lost faces of the Denisovans. You wander deeper into the cave, the firelight casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. In the dirt, you see other signs of life. a beautifully polished stone bracelet carved from a dark green chlorite. It's exquisite, with a hole drilled through it so precisely that scientists in the future will argue it must have been made with a high-speed drill. Nearby is a delicate needle carved from bone, a tool far more refined than anything the Neanderthals were making at the time. Were these crafted by the Denisovans, or were they made by later Sapiens inhabitants, or perhaps even traded? The layers of the cave floor are a jumble, a messy mix of different occupations over thousands of years, making it incredibly difficult to definitively assign artifacts to their makers. It's a maddening puzzle, with most of the pieces missing. What's truly mind-boggling is the genetic story the cave tells. In 2018, analysis of another bone fragment revealed that it belonged to a teenage girl who had lived around 90,000 years ago. Her DNA showed she had a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father. They named her Dani. She is the first and only direct first-generation hybrid of two different human species ever found. It's a stunning concrete proof of what had only been theory. Our ancient relatives were not living in isolated bubbles. They were meeting, interacting, and having children together. This wasn't a clash of civilizations. It was a planetary family reunion, and things were getting complicated. As you leave the cave and continue your journey east, you look back at the dark opening. You didn't see them, but you feel their presence. They are a species built from whispers and genes, phantoms of the mountains and forests of ancient Asia. They represent a huge, thriving branch of our family that we had forgotten completely. Their story is a humbling reminder of how much of our own past is still buried, waiting in the darkness of a cave, hidden within a single, forgotten fragment of bone. Your journey takes you south now, leaving the vast, cold continents behind. You are part of a small group of sapiens, pioneers on the move, island hopping across the turquoise waters of Southeast Asia. You travel on crude rafts of bamboo, lashed together with vines, a terrifyingly fragile vessel to challenge the open sea. This is a part of the world where the rules of nature seem to have been rewritten. The Ice Age has locked up so much of the world's water that sea levels are hundreds of feet lower, connecting lands that will one day be islands and turning straits into shallow, crossable channels. Yet, some gaps remain, deep water trenches that have never been dry land. To cross them requires courage, luck, and a leap of faith. It requires a journey with no visible destination. You and your group wash ashore on an island that feels like a dream. Lush, volcanic, and teeming with life you have never seen before. It is the island of Flores, a place that will one day be part of Indonesia. And it is here that the human story takes a turn for the truly strange. As you venture inland, through thick jungle ringing with the calls of exotic birds, you find footprints by a stream. They are unmistakably human, but they are impossibly small. You follow them, your heart a mix of caution and burning curiosity, until you see them. Huddled in a rock shelter is a family of people who, at first, you mistake for children. But as you get closer, you see their adult faces, weathered and wise. They are tiny. The tallest among them barely reaches your chest. You have just stumbled upon Homo floresiensis, the people our time will affectionately and a little condescendingly call the Hobbits. For a long time, the existence of such a creature would be considered pure fantasy. When their first skeletons are unearthed in Liangbua Cave in 2003, the scientific world is thrown into chaos. The find is so bizarre that many prominent researchers initially dismiss it as a hoax, or perhaps the remains of a diseased modern human. The skeleton, an adult female nicknamed Flo, stood just 3 feet 6 inches tall. Her brain was tiny, about the size of a chimpanzee's, and smaller even than the earliest, most primitive human ancestors from millions of years ago. Yet, the dirt around her held a secret that defied all logic. Sophisticated stone tools, blades, points, and scrapers used for hunting and butchering. How could a creature with such a small brain create and use such complex tools? It was a paradox that challenged the very foundation of what it meant to be human. The long-held belief that bigger brains equaled greater intelligence and technological prowess. The prevailing theory, though still debated, is that the Hobbits are a product of a bizarre evolutionary phenomenon known as island dwarfism. Their ancestors were likely a full-sized ancient human species, probably Homo erectus, who arrived on Flores hundreds of thousands of years earlier. Once isolated on the island, with limited resources and no large predators to worry about, the evolutionary pressure was on to get smaller. A smaller body requires less food, making it a huge advantage in a restricted environment. You see evidence of it all around you. Giant, man-sized storks stalk the wetlands, and you hear rumors from your companions of rats the size of cats. And there are the elephants. Not the mammoths of the north, but a species of pygmy stegodon, no bigger than a cow, which the little people hunt with remarkable skill and courage. It's a complete reversal of the natural order, a wonderland ecosystem, as some scientists would call it. You watch them from a distance, fascinated. They communicate in a series of clicks and soft melodic calls that you cannot understand. Their society seems simple, but effective. They live in small family groups, a perfect strategy for their island world. They are masters of their domain, a unique and successful branch of humanity that has been thriving here, in isolation, for perhaps 1,000,000 years. The discovery of Homo floresiensis was a quirky and profound shock to our system because it proved that human evolution wasn't a simple, linear march towards becoming us. It was a wild, branching experiment, producing a diversity of forms we are only just beginning to appreciate. It wasn't just a ladder, it was a bush with many strange and wonderful branches. And this was perhaps the strangest of them all. And they aren't the only ones. Far to the north of Flores, on the island of Luzon in the modern-day Philippines, another, even more enigmatic small human was living at the same time. We will call them Homo luzonensis, identified from just a few teeth and finger and toe bones found in Callao Cave. These bones show a strange mosaic of features, some ancient and primitive, like our ape-like ancestors, and some remarkably modern. Scholars still argue fiercely about their origins. Are they another case of island dwarfism from an erectus-like ancestor? Or do they represent an even earlier, more primitive migration out of Africa that we have no other record of? It's a thrilling mystery. The existence of two distinct small-bodied human species living in island Southeast Asia at the same time suggests this region was a crucible of human evolution, a laboratory where isolation and unique environments forged new kinds of people. As you stand there, a towering giant in this land of miniature humans, you represent the outside world. You are the harbinger of a change more profound than any volcanic eruption or tsunami the island has ever known. Your arrival marks the end of their splendid isolation. The Hobbits of Flores likely survived until about 50,000 years ago, a date that coincides, suspiciously, with the first strong evidence of Homo sapiens arriving on the island. Did we meet them? The timing is so close it's almost certain we did. What happened in that meeting is the great unanswered question. Was it a violent confrontation? Did we bring diseases they had no immunity to? Or did we simply outcompete them for resources with our different technology and social structures? There is no evidence of a dramatic conflict, only a quiet, final fading of their footprints from the volcanic ash. You turn away from the rock shelter, leaving the little people to their lives. Their existence is a beautiful, bizarre, and ultimately tragic chapter in the human story. They are a testament to evolution's creativity, a reminder that for 1,000,000 years, there was more than one way to be a successful human. And their disappearance is a somber foreshadowing of what is to come for all the other human species on the planet. The world is getting smaller, and the arrival of your kind seems to be the one factor that all the other humans could not adapt to. You leave the islands of the strange and the small behind you, your mind reeling with the sheer variety of the human form. The journey back to the mainland feels different now. You are beginning to understand the world not as one place, but as a mosaic of separate, ancient homelands, each with its own human kings. And now, you must turn the focus inward, to your own people, to the unlikely conquerors, to us. You look down at your own hands, your long, slender fingers. You feel the structure of your own body, the narrow hips, the long limbs. You are a Homo sapiens. And if you were to place yourself in a lineup next to a Neanderthal, you would look, well, you'd look soft. Your body is not a fortress of muscle and bone, built to withstand the cold, like the Neanderthals we met earlier. It's a leaner, more gracile machine, built for endurance and efficiency. You are a long-distance runner, not a powerlifter. Your skeleton is lighter, your bones thinner. A well-aimed club that might just annoy a Neanderthal could easily break your arm. Looking at the hardware alone, we didn't seem to have what it takes. We were the tropical apes, venturing out of our warm African cradle into a world already dominated by tougher, stronger, and more experienced human species. We seemed, by all accounts, destined for failure. So how did you get here? The story begins, as all human stories do, in Africa. Your ancestors looked out upon a landscape that was changing. The Great Sahara Desert, which had periodically bloomed into a lush savanna, was beginning to dry out again. Resources were becoming scarcer. What drove that first, definitive wave of sapiens to leave the continent is a topic of intense scholarly debate. Was it climate pressure pushing them out? Was it simply population growth, a need to find new territory? Or was it something less tangible, a spark of restlessness, a curiosity to see what lay over the next horizon that was unique to us? Whatever the reason, you began to walk. The journey was brutal. You would have crossed either the Sinai Peninsula into the Middle East or made a perilous sea crossing over the Bab el-Mandeb Strait from the Horn of Africa into Arabia. You walked into lands that were not empty. They were the established territories of your cousins. Neanderthals had been living in the Middle East for tens of thousands of years before you showed up. Your first forays out of Africa were not a roaring success. Here, we find a fascinating little tidbit. At a place called Mislia Cave in modern-day Israel, a Homo sapiens jawbone was found that dates to around 180,000 years ago. That's more than 100,000 years before the main, successful wave of migration. They were like a series of pilot episodes that didn't get picked up. These early pioneers ventured out, perhaps met the Neanderthals, and then vanished. They were absorbed, or outcompeted. Their genetic line died out, a false start in the great human expansion. So, what was different about your wave, the one that finally worked? At first glance, your technology wasn't a world beater. You carried stone tools, of course, finely made blades and points, a technology we call the Middle Stone Age industry. But were they demonstrably better than the Neanderthals' Mousterian tools? Not really, just different. A slightly different way of striking a stone, a preference for longer, thinner blades over broad, sturdy flakes. You had fire, you had spears, you built simple shelters. On paper, you and your Neanderthal neighbors looked surprisingly evenly matched. You were both intelligent, capable hunters, living similar lives on the landscape. The difference, then, must have been more subtle. It wasn't in your muscles, and it wasn't, initially, in your spear points. The secret lay somewhere else. You look at the faces of your family around the fire. Compared to the other humans you've seen, your faces are strangely flat tucked underneath the front of your skull. Your brow ridge is small, almost non-existent. Your skull itself is different, not long and low like a football, as a Neanderthal's is, but high and rounded, like a soccer ball. And you have something no other human species possessed, a chin. That bony, slightly absurd protrusion on the front of your lower jaw. We still don't really know why we have them. It's our most distinguishing, and let's be honest, slightly useless feature. But the shape of your skull is the real clue. That high, domed forehead houses a brain that is organized differently. The overall volume isn't much different from a Neanderthal's, but the shape suggests that perhaps different areas were larger or better connected, specifically the regions associated with planning, memory, and, most crucially, symbolic thought and language. As you sit there, you are not just thinking about where the deer will be tomorrow. You are thinking about the story your grandfather told you about the deer hunt last season. You are thinking about the story your grandfather told you about the deer hunt last season. You are thinking about the pattern you saw in the stars last night and wondering if it means good luck. You are arguing with your brother about the best way to flake a stone point, not just showing him, but explaining why your way is better. You are the fragile ape with the strange globular head. You've arrived late to the party on a planet of giants. You are physically weaker than your main rival. Your previous attempts to leave your homeland ended in mysterious failure. You are, in every sense, the underdog. But you carry a secret weapon, an invisible advantage that no one can see. It's not in your hand, but in your head. A fire is about to be lit in the human mind, and it will allow you to do something no other human has ever done before. Completely remake the world in your own image. That fire you feel being lit is not in the hearth in front of you, but behind your eyes. For the first 200,000 years of your species' existence, you were, to be brutally honest, archaeologically boring. Your ancestors in Africa made the same kind of decent but unremarkable stone tools for generation after generation. They lived, they hunted, they survived. But then, somewhere around 70,000 years ago, a switch was flipped. A firestorm of creativity erupts in the archaeological record. A change so profound, so sudden, that some thinkers have given it a dramatic name: the cognitive revolution. It's the moment your species, Homo sapiens, truly became you. This is one of the most hotly contested and exciting ideas in human prehistory. Was it a sudden, dramatic event caused by a random genetic mutation that rewired our brains? Or was it a much slower, more gradual cultural process that finally hit a critical mass? The truth is, we don't know for sure. It's a ghost in the machine, an event that left no direct fossils, only a trail of electrifying new behaviors. It was less a hardware upgrade and more a revolutionary new software update for the human brain. And you are living right in the middle of it. You start to see the evidence everywhere. You follow a group from your clan into the deepest, most sacred part of a cave, a place far from the entrance, a place of total darkness and silence. By the flickering light of animal fat lamps, you see something that makes the hair on your arms stand up. The walls are covered in paintings, majestic bison, thundering herds of horses, graceful deer. They are so vivid they seem to be moving in the wavering light. The person next to you isn't just painting a horse. They are capturing the idea of a horse, its spirit, its power. And look closer. Over there, a figure with a human body and the head of a lion carved from mammoth ivory. This isn't something they saw in the woods. This is an invention. It's a creature born of pure imagination, a story given physical form. This is the birth of fiction. The change is not just in art. You find a companion, a revered elder who has recently passed away. In the old days, they would have been left to the elements, But now, your clan gathers for a ceremony. You dig a shallow grave. You place the elder inside, and you cover their body with beads meticulously carved from seashells. You sprinkle them with red ochre, the color of blood and life. You place their favorite flint knife in their hand. This is more than just disposal. This is a ritual. It implies a belief in something beyond the here and now. A belief, perhaps, in an afterlife, a spirit world. You are thinking about yesterday and tomorrow, about life and what comes after, in a way that seems entirely new. This is the birth of religion. And you start to accessorize. You spend hours drilling a hole in a wolf's tooth, not to make it a better tool, but to string it on a leather cord to wear around your neck. It's not just decoration, it's an identity. It might say, I belong to the wolf clan, or I am a great hunter. It's a signal to strangers, a piece of information worn on your body. This is the birth of culture as we know it. You even hear a new sound echoing through the valley at night. Someone has discovered that a hollow bird bone, with holes carefully drilled in it, can produce a beautiful, haunting melody. It's a flute, the world's first musical instrument. It serves no purpose for survival. It won't fill your belly or keep you warm. Its only function is to create beauty, to stir emotion. It was also, one can only imagine, the subject of humanity's first noise complaint from the family in the next cave over trying to get some sleep. The engine driving all of this is language. Your cousins, the Neanderthals, almost certainly had language, but it was likely a practical, utilitarian thing, focused on the present. There is a deer by the river. Bring me that spear. Your language has become something else entirely. It has become a tool for weaving worlds. You can now speak about things that don't exist. You can talk about the future, plan complex hunting strategies involving multiple groups. You can talk about the past, telling the story of your great-grandmother's epic journey. And most importantly, you can gossip. You can talk about who is trustworthy, who is a cheat, who is a good leader. But the real superpower is the ability to create and believe in shared fictions. You can tell a story about the great eagle spirit who protects your tribe, a story that every single person believes. This is the secret weapon. A Neanderthal band is held together by personal bonds. They can only maintain a stable group of a few dozen people, the number of individuals you can know and trust intimately. Your Sapiens tribe, however, can be held together by a shared story. You can cooperate with hundreds, even thousands of strangers, because you all believe in the same tribal ancestor, the same law, the same God. This ability to unite flexibly in large numbers is the advantage that will change everything. And what sparked it? Here's a quirky and rather lovely theory: the grandmother hypothesis. It suggests that sapiens women started living longer, well past their childbearing years. These grandmothers became living libraries, holding vast stores of knowledge and stories, and by helping care for their grandchildren, they allowed their daughters to have more children, faster. They were the glue of this new, complex society, the keepers of the stories that held you all together. The power of that new software in your brain isn't just for painting bison or believing in lion-headed spirits. It has a far more practical, world-altering application. One day, you are walking along a ridge, and you see a plume of smoke in the next valley. It's not your clan. In the old world, for any other human species, this would mean one of two things: ignore them or prepare for a fight. You approach the camp cautiously. You see a man wearing a necklace of polished wolf teeth, just like the one you made back in Section 6. You recognize the specific way he has notched the bone. It's a symbol you understand. It's like a password. He sees the carved shell pendant you wear, a shell that comes from a coast hundreds of miles away, and he recognizes its meaning. You don't know this person. You've never seen them before in your life. But you know instantly that you are part of the same extended family, the same tribe. You both believe in the same great eagle spirit, and that makes you allies. This is your species' true secret weapon, more powerful than any stone-tipped spear. It's not your strength, not your individual cleverness, it's your collective intelligence. You are a node in a network. A Neanderthal group, remember, is a fortress. They are incredibly tough, resilient, and self-sufficient. Their social world is likely limited to the 20 or 30 individuals they see every single day. They know each other intimately, and their survival depends on the strength of that immediate family. Your Sapiens world, by contrast, is a spider's web, stretching for hundreds, maybe thousands of miles. Your immediate family is your anchor, but you are connected by thin, yet surprisingly strong, threads of silk to countless other groups. And what are those threads made of? The main one is gossip. That's right. The ability to talk about people who aren't present is a revolutionary technology. You sit by their fire, and they sit by yours, and you exchange information. Not just, the hunting is good to the north, but the clan by the Crooked River is led by a man named Boar. He is fair and trades good flint. And be wary of the people in the deep woods. Their leader, Zog, is untrustworthy. He once traded 3 bad spears for a perfectly good hide. It's the world's first TripAdvisor review, and it is vital for survival. It allows you to build a mental map of the social landscape, to know who to trust and who to avoid without having to learn the hard way. Keeping track of this complex web of relationships, of who was related to whom, who owed a favor to whom, was a major driver for our evolving brains. This network isn't just for talk. It's a physical economy. The seashell on your chest is proof. It was passed from hand to hand, from band to band, traveling far from its coastal home. You also carry a flint knife made from a specific type of glossy black stone that is only found in a quarry 300 miles to the west. These objects are not just pretty trinkets. They are the physical manifestation of your social connections. A famous archaeological fact is the discovery of these exotic materials in sapien sites, far from their point of origin, a clear sign of long-distance trade. Neanderthal tools, by contrast, are almost always made from stone, found within a few miles of their camps. They were local. You are becoming global. This is where you find a truly quirky and amazing human behavior, the creation of value. That seashell has no practical use. You can't eat it. It makes a terrible knife. Its only value is the one you and everyone else in your network agree it has. It is a form of currency, a symbol of trust and obligation. Archaeologists still debate the exact nature of these exchanges. Was it a formal system of trade with established routes and prices? Or was it more of a gift economy, a system of building social debts and alliances, where a gift of a beautiful necklace today ensures you'll be given help in a time of crisis tomorrow? Whatever the system, it worked. The flow of goods was the lubricant for the flow of information and genetic diversity, keeping your species connected and dynamic. And this network provides the ultimate insurance policy, a safety net. Imagine a sudden, brutal cold snap hits your region. The herds of bison you depend on move away. The plants you gather wither. If you were a small, isolated Neanderthal clan, this would be a catastrophe. You would tighten your furs, eat your last reserves of food, and hope for the best. You might not survive. But you, Sapiens, have options. You remember the gossip about Boar and his people a few valleys over, where the climate is a little milder. You can pack up your camp and walk there. You can show up, present your wolf-tooth credentials, and ask for help. Because you are part of their web, they will take you in. They know that next year, the situation might be reversed, and they might need to call on you. This ability to move, to seek help, to draw on the resources and knowledge of a vast community makes your species incredibly resilient to local disasters and environmental shifts. One sarcastic observer might say that keeping track of who owed who a mammoth steak was probably a full-time job, but it was a job that kept you alive. You are no longer just an individual or a family. You are part of a superorganism, a collective consciousness connected by language, myth, and trade. While other human species were facing the world as small, lonely islands, you were weaving yourselves into a continent. And when the great climate storms of the late Ice Age began to blow, that web would not break. It would bend. It would stretch, but it would hold, while the lonely fortresses, one by one, were washed away. Your interconnected social web gives you resilience, but it's your breathtaking adaptability that allows you to conquer. While your Neanderthal cousins are the undisputed masters of the cold European woodlands and steppes, you are becoming a master of everything. Your species, born in the diverse landscapes of Africa, never had the luxury of specializing. Africa is a continent of dramatic environmental variety, from deserts to rainforests to mountains. To survive there, you had to be a jack of all trades. This legacy of flexibility is now your greatest asset as you spread across the globe. You are a planetary weed, capable of putting down roots and thriving in any environment you encounter. Your diet is a perfect example. You watch a Neanderthal hunting party. They are focused, efficient, and almost exclusively targeting large game. Their entire culture, technology, and physique is geared towards taking down mammoths, woolly rhinos, and giant deer. They are the apex predators of the Ice Age megafauna. You, on the other hand, are an apex opportunist. You'll happily hunt a mammoth if you can get one, but you are equally content to spend your afternoon setting traps for rabbits. You'll climb a treacherous cliff face to collect bird eggs. You'll wade into a river to gather shellfish. You'll grind up wild grains and tubers to make a crude kind of flour. You have a mental encyclopedia of edible plants, insects, and small critters that your more specialized neighbors would likely ignore. This broad-spectrum diet is a huge advantage. When the mammoth herds move on, the Neanderthals might be in trouble. When the mammoth herds move on, you just shrug and go fishing. One historian jokingly called us the cockroaches of the Pleistocene, able to survive on almost anything, which is perhaps a little unflattering, but not entirely inaccurate. This flexibility is supercharged by your toolkit. It's not just that you have tools, it's that you have the right tool for every conceivable job. Your camp is a clutter of specialized implements. You have fine, delicate bone needles for sewing tailored clothing. While Neanderthals likely wore simple, draped ponchos of animal hide, you are creating fitted garments, trousers, tunics, parkas, and boots. This seems like a small thing, but it's a game changer. It's the difference between enduring the cold and being comfortable in it. You're essentially wearing a personalized prehistoric sleeping bag, which is a significant technological leap. You also have new and inventive ways to get food. You've developed the spear thrower, or atlatl. It's a simple-looking stick with a hook on one end, but it's a revolutionary piece of physics. It acts as an extension of your arm, allowing you to hurl a light spear with incredible force and accuracy from a safe distance. You can now hunt dangerous animals without the rodeo rider risks your Neanderthal cousins face. You are also crafting bows and arrows, an even more sophisticated long-range weapon system. And for the smaller stuff, you weave intricate nets from plant fibers to catch fish and birds, and you set complex snares and traps that hunt for you while you sleep. Your toolkit is a testament to a mind that can think abstractly, that can understand physics and animal behavior, and that is constantly innovating. One of the most debated and slightly quirky examples of sapiens innovation is the domestication of the dog. We don't know exactly when or where it happened, but sometime during this period, you began to form an alliance with a certain population of unusually friendly wolves. Was it a wolf pup you brought back to camp as a pet? Did wolves start hanging around your campsites to scavenge for scraps, slowly becoming tamer over generations? The details are lost to time, and scholars love to argue about them. But the result was the single most successful partnership in human history. The dog gave you a superior sense of smell, keen hearing for spotting predators, and an invaluable partner in the hunt. In return, you gave them food, warmth, and protection. It was a classic win-win, and it was an advantage no other human species had. Your adaptability extends to your choice of home. You'll live in a cave if you find a good one, sure. But if there are no caves, it's no problem. You will build your own. In the Great Plains of Eastern Europe, where wood is scarce, you erect incredible structures using the bones of mammoths as a framework stretching animal hides over them to create large, sturdy huts. Some of these settlements are huge, housing multiple families. This ability to construct your own shelters, to create a home wherever you go, untethers you from the landscape. You are not just finding a place to live. You are actively shaping the world to suit your needs. This relentless wave of innovation and adaptation is fueled by the social web we talked about earlier. A brilliant new idea, like the atlatl, or a better way to weave a net, doesn't die with the person who invented it, or stay locked within one small clan. It spreads like wildfire through the trade and communication networks. It's a collective cumulative process. While Neanderthal technology remained remarkably static for hundreds of thousands of years, your technology is in a state of constant accelerating change. You are not just adapting genetically to new environments over millennia. You are adapting culturally in the space of a single generation. This rapid cultural evolution is your ultimate superpower. It makes you a moving target, an unpredictable and relentless new force on the planet. You are the unstoppable plague, and the world of the ancient humans is about to be turned upside down. The moment has come. You stand on a hillside, looking down into a river valley somewhere in what we now call southern France. The air is crisp, the autumn sun low in the sky. Your Sapiens clan has made this valley their home for the season. But you are not alone. On the other side of the river, smoke rises from the mouth of a cave. You can see them moving about, their distinctive, powerful forms silhouetted against the firelight. It is a clan of Neanderthals. For thousands of years, this has been their undisputed territory. Now, you are here. The frontier is no longer a distant concept. It is the river flowing a few hundred yards in front of you. This is the crossroads. This is where worlds collide. For a long time, the prevailing image was one of brutal, violent conflict. A classic Hollywood-style war for the world where your clever, technologically superior ancestors systematically wiped out their brutish cousins. It's a compelling narrative, but the archaeological evidence for it is surprisingly thin. While we find plenty of evidence of violence within sapiens groups and within Neanderthal groups, we find very little direct proof of widespread organized warfare between the two. There are no mass graves of Neanderthals with sapien spear points in their ribs, no fortified sapiens camps showing signs of a Neanderthal siege. That's not to say it was all peaceful coexistence. Life in the Ice Age was tough, and resources were scarce. There were almost certainly moments of conflict, a dispute over a prime hunting ground, a confrontation over a winter shelter. A Neanderthal, with their immense physical strength, would have been a terrifying opponent in a close-quarters fight. But an all-out genocidal war seems unlikely. The population densities were simply too low. For much of the time, you could probably live your entire life in the same region as a Neanderthal clan and only encounter them a handful of times. The landscape was big enough for both of you for a while. So, if not a war of annihilation, what did happen? You walked down to the river's edge. A young Neanderthal, perhaps not much older than you, is collecting water. He sees you. He tenses, his hand instinctively gripping the heavy wooden spear he carries. You raise an open hand, a gesture you hope he understands. He watches you, his deep-set eyes intelligent and wary. The interaction is fraught with tension, a dance of curiosity and fear. The evidence suggests that the relationship between your two peoples was far more complex and nuanced than simple extermination. It was a mixture of avoidance, competition, and most surprisingly of all, connection. In a cave in France called Grotte Mandrin, archaeologists found a fascinating story written in the layers of dirt. For thousands of years, Neanderthals lived there. Then, in a thin layer of sediment, a new stone tool technology appears, one associated with Homo sapiens, along with a single sapiens baby tooth. This occupation lasted only a short time, maybe a year or two, and then the sapiens tools vanish, and the Neanderthal tools reappear in the layer above. It's a snapshot of a moment in time. A small band of sapiens pioneers moved into the valley, lived there for a brief period, and then either moved on or died out, and the Neanderthals moved back in. It wasn't an invasion. It was a subtle, shifting mosaic of occupation. This pattern of different groups using the same prime real estate at different times suggests a relationship that was more about competition and displacement than open warfare. You were simply better at extracting resources from the environment. Your population grew faster, and you slowly, almost imperceptibly, squeezed them out. But something else happened at this frontier. Something far more intimate. That Neanderthal by the river has not attacked you. He sees the strange, delicate tools at your belt, the intricate stitching on your clothes. You see the power in his build, the confidence with which he moves through this land. And perhaps a different kind of curiosity begins to bloom. The ultimate proof of this connection is not in the dirt, but in your DNA. We know, from the moment we first sequenced the Neanderthal genome, that they are not entirely gone. Their ghosts live on inside of us. If your ancestry is from anywhere outside of sub-Saharan Africa, you carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA in your genome. This is a stunning, undeniable fact. It means that at some point, in a valley just like this one, a sapiens man and a Neanderthal woman, or a Neanderthal man and a sapiens woman, looked at each other and did not see a rival or a monster. They saw a partner. They had children together. Denny, the hybrid girl from Denisova Cave, proved it could happen between Neanderthals and Denisovans. The genetics prove it happened with us too. Historians and geneticists still argue about the frequency and nature of these encounters. Were they rare, chance meetings? Or was there a prolonged period of peaceful exchange and intermingling? Was it consensual, a true merging of peoples? Or did it have a darker, more violent side? The fact that the DNA passed down successfully suggests that the hybrid offspring were healthy and accepted into sapient society, raised to have children of their own, passing that Neanderthal legacy down to the present day. This genetic inheritance is a quirky and profound twist in the story. It means the other humans weren't just replaced. They were, in a small way, absorbed. You look at the Neanderthal by the river. He is the other, the rival, the alien. But he is also, potentially, your future great-great-great-grandfather. The clean line we like to draw between us and them becomes hopelessly, beautifully blurred. The story of our survival is not just one of victory, but of love. A forbidden, world-changing love affair at the edge of extinction. You are not a pure-blooded conqueror. You are a hybrid, a mutt, carrying the echoes of these lost worlds within every cell of your body. The collision of your two worlds wasn't just a clash, it was in the quietest and most intimate of ways, a fusion. The encounter by the river ends not with a bang, but a quiet, mutual withdrawal. You watch the Neanderthal retreat to his cave, and you return to yours. The moment of connection, of shared humanity, or perhaps just shared curiosity, lingers in your mind. But in that brief, tense meeting, you may have exchanged something far more potent than a glance. You may have passed on an invisible killer. Because the deadliest weapon you carry is not the finely crafted stone point at your side, but the teeming, microscopic universe that lives inside your body. You are a walking plague. You return to your own camp, a bustling, noisy, and wonderfully social place. Children tumble over each other in the dirt. Food is prepared and shared from a common pot, hands dipping in and out. The concept of washing your hands is still a good 50,000 years away from being invented, and social distancing is the exact opposite of your survival strategy. Your community thrives on close, constant contact. Remember that great social web, your superpower? It's not just for trading goods and gossip. It's a superhighway for germs. But for you, this is normal. You and your ancestors grew up in this environment, and your immune systems are battle-hardened veterans. This is the core of the Sapiens plague theory, a chilling and compelling explanation for the disappearance of your cousins. Your species evolved in tropical Africa, the world's greatest laboratory for pathogens. For hundreds of thousands of years, you were locked in a co-evolutionary arms race with a staggering diversity of viruses, bacteria, and parasites. Every sapiens who survived to adulthood was a descendant of people who had weathered countless infections. Your immune system is a sophisticated, well-funded military, with spies and special forces trained to recognize and fight off a vast array of enemies. The Neanderthals, on the other hand, had spent the last few 100,000 years in the cold, relatively sterile environments of Ice Age Eurasia. The frigid temperatures were a terrible environment for many pathogens. They faced their own set of local diseases, of course, but the sheer diversity of microbial threats was vastly lower than in Africa. Their immune system, bless its heart, was a highly specialized expert on local threats, but a complete amateur when faced with these new foreign agents you brought with you. When you arrived, you weren't just bringing new ideas and technologies. You were a Trojan horse, filled with invisible armies they had never encountered and had no defense against. Scientists still debate the exact role disease played in the Great Vanishing. Was it the primary cause? A silver bullet that wiped them out? Or was it just one more stress factor in a world that was already becoming too difficult for them? The truth is likely a grim combination. It wasn't necessarily a dramatic cinematic plague that caused people to drop dead in days. It was probably more insidious. Perhaps you introduced something like the herpes simplex virus, which causes cold sores. For you, it's an annoyance. For an immunologically naive population, it could be far more serious. Or maybe you brought chronic debilitating illnesses. Here, we find a truly fascinating and quirky tidbit of evidence, found right inside our own stomachs. Modern humans carry a bacterium called Helicobacter pylori. It's a common stomach bug, and by analyzing its genetic variations, scientists can trace ancient human migration patterns. The evidence suggests that Homo sapiens brought a particularly robust African strain of H. pylori with them when they left the continent. Neanderthals likely had their own Eurasian strain. When the two species met and interbred, our African strain seems to have outcompeted and replaced theirs. This suggests that even our gut bacteria were more aggressive. A chronic stomach infection might not kill a healthy Neanderthal hunter directly, but it could cause ulcers, malnutrition, and a general weakening of their system, making them less successful hunters and more vulnerable to other dangers. It's death by 1,000 cuts, delivered by a stomachache. Now, think back to the social structures of the two species. Your Sapiens group is part of that vast network. If a sickness sweeps through your camp and lays you low for a few weeks, your cousins in the next valley might bring you food. Your population is large and interconnected enough to absorb the blow and recover. The Neanderthals, living in their small, isolated family groups, had no such safety net. An outbreak of a new disease in a clan of 25 could easily be a death sentence for the entire group. It could kill the strongest hunters, leaving the rest to starve. It could kill the childbearing females, ending the clan's future. With each small local extinction, the Neanderthal world would shrink, their campfires winking out one by one across the vastness of Europe. You feel a cough tickle your throat. You feel fine, just a bit of a sniffle you've had for a week. The child next to you has a rash on her skin, but she's still playing happily. You are the carriers of a biological apocalypse, and you are completely unaware of it. You mean them no harm. In fact, that brief, peaceful encounter at the river might have been the most dangerous meeting in history. The quietest interactions, the sharing of a water source, the trading of a tool, or even the intimacy that led to a hybrid child, could have been the vector for their doom. Your greatest advantage was not just your mind, but the invisible world you carried within you, a legacy of your African homeland that would unintentionally cleanse a continent for your expansion. You look up at the sky. For the last few weeks, it has been a strange, hazy gray, even on days without clouds. A fine dust seems to settle on everything, and the sun is a pale, sickly disk in the sky. The elders in your clan are worried. They tell stories of a time, long ago, when the mountains to the south exploded, spitting fire and smoke that blotted out the sun for years. They are talking about a supervolcano, and they are right to be afraid. While you have been focused on the dramas of the human world, the meetings, the competition, the new ideas, the planet itself is stirring. The Earth is not a passive stage for your story. It is an active and often violent character, and it is about to betray its inhabitants. You are living in the last phase of the Pleistocene epoch, a time of incredible climate instability. The world is locked in the grip of an ice age, but it's not a period of steady, predictable cold. Instead, the global thermostat is broken. The climate swings wildly, sometimes in the space of a single lifetime. Immense ice sheets advance and retreat. Lush woodlands can transform into frozen, treeless steppe in just a few generations. These are not the gentle, gradual shifts we worry about today. These are climatic earthquakes, violent lurches from one state to another, known as Dansgaard-Oeser and Heinrich events. For any species living on the edge, these swings can be a death sentence. The Neanderthals, you remember, are the ultimate Ice Age specialists. For 300,000 years, they have weathered the cold. Their bodies, their tools, their hunting strategies, everything is exquisitely adapted to a world of frozen forests and big game. But specialization, which is a great strength in a stable environment, becomes a fatal weakness when the environment changes too quickly. Imagine you're a Neanderthal clan. Your entire existence revolves around hunting the reindeer that migrate through your valley. You know their patterns, their behaviors. Your ancestors have hunted them here for 1,000 generations. Then, in just 50 years, the climate warms slightly. The forests of birch and pine that the reindeer love retreat north, replaced by an oak woodland that they avoid. Suddenly, your entire food source is gone. What do? You, the Sapiens generalist, have an answer. You shrug, pull out your fishing nets, and head for the river. You set your rabbit snares. You remember a story from a trading partner about a valley 2 weeks' walk to the east where the hunting is still good. Your flexible diet, your diverse toolkit, and your long-distance social network all make you fantastically resilient to this kind of shock. You can adapt. The Neanderthals, with their more limited toolkit and their local self-sufficient lifestyle, would find it much harder. Their entire world has just been pulled out from under them. Some scientists point to a particularly brutal cold snap around 40,000 years ago, known as Heinrich Event 4, as a major stressor that coincided with the rapid decline of the Neanderthals. Others argue that it wasn't just the cold, but the sheer instability, the constant, unpredictable yo-yoing of the climate that was the real killer. It favored the nimble and the adaptable, not the specialized and the entrenched. And then there are the cataclysms. Around 39,000 years ago, a massive volcanic eruption occurs in what is now Italy, at a site called the Campanian Ignimbrite. It is one of the largest eruptions in the last 200,000 years, a true super-eruption that blankets a huge swath of eastern and southeastern Europe in a thick layer of ash. The sky would have gone dark. A volcanic winter would have descended, causing temperatures to plummet and devastating plant and animal life. For any human groups living downwind, it would have been an apocalypse. It's a historical fact that the timing of this eruption aligns eerily well with the disappearance of the last Neanderthal populations in some of these regions. Was this the final nail in their coffin? A knockout blow to a population already reeling from climate change, disease, and competition from you? You feel the ground tremble. It's not an earthquake. It's the sound of a glacier calving miles away, a thunderous roar that echoes through the mountains. The world feels unstable, untrustworthy. It's easy to imagine these ancient people interpreting these events through a mythological lens. The angry sky gods, the trembling earth spirits. It must have felt like the end of the world. One quirky and rather sad archaeological finding supports this idea of a world in crisis. In a cave in Spain, Neanderthal remains were found that showed signs of cannibalism. But this wasn't the violent, slaughter the enemy kind. It was methodical butchery, the same way they would process a deer, suggesting they were eating their own dead out of sheer desperate starvation. It is a grim testament to the incredibly hard times that had fallen upon them. The planet was turning on its children. The very environment that had sculpted the Neanderthals into the Ice Age kings was now abandoning them. And it wasn't just them. The Denisovans in their high-altitude homes, the Hobbits on their isolated island, all of these specialized populations were vulnerable. A volcanic eruption could wipe out the pygmy elephants on Flores, leaving the Hobbits with no primary food source. A sudden shift in the monsoon patterns could devastate the ecosystems the Denisovans relied on. With your vast geographic range, we're the only ones who were truly insulated. A disaster in one part of the world was a local problem. For the other human species, whose entire populations were confined to smaller, more specific regions, a local disaster was a global extinction event. You are not just fighting your cousins for the world, you are all fighting the world itself. And it is a fight that only the most adaptable, most connected, and perhaps luckiest species will win. The world is colder now, the winds sharper. The great volcanic winter may have passed, but the planet remains locked in an unpredictable and unforgiving state. You are witnessing the long goodbye. The extinction of the Neanderthals was not a single dramatic event. It was a slow, heartbreaking fade over thousands of years, a story written in abandoned campsites and shrinking territories. You are watching a world die, one flickering campfire at a time. Their vast, continent-spanning empire, which once stretched from Britain to Siberia, is now crumbling, breaking apart into small, isolated pockets of survival. You travel west, towards the setting sun, into lands that were once the heart of the Neanderthal world. The valleys that were once bustling with their hunting parties are now eerily silent. You find their old rock shelters, the ground littered with their distinctive Mousterian tools. But the hearths are cold, the bones ancient. It feels like walking through a ghost town. They are gone from here, pushed out, perhaps, by the changing climate that altered the migratory paths of their prey, or by the quiet, relentless demographic pressure of your own Sapiens ancestors moving in. Each Sapiens family, with a slightly higher birth rate and a slightly lower infant mortality rate, was a slow, steady tide lapping at the shores of their world. There didn't need to be a war. It was a simple, brutal calculus of replacement. Their last stands are in the places you would expect: the fringes, the refuges, the cul-de-sacs of the continent. They are pushed to the mountainous and to the rocky coasts of the Iberian Peninsula, modern-day Spain and Portugal. Here, for a few thousand more years, they hold on. You can imagine them looking out from their caves over the gray Atlantic, seeing a world that was once theirs, now belonging to the strange, lanky newcomers. Did they know their time was ending? Could they feel the profound loneliness of being the last of their kind? One of the most poignant and debated chapters of this final act is the Chateauperonian industry. In several sites in France and northern Spain, archaeologists have found a curious and unique toolkit. It contains classic Neanderthal-style tools, but mixed in are new, more advanced items. Things like slender bone points, grooved animal teeth, and ivory rings. Objects that look suspiciously like the kind of symbolic ornaments your own Sapiens people were making. For a long time, this was hailed as proof that the Neanderthals, in their final days, were innovating, perhaps even mimicking the new technologies they saw the Sapiens using. It was a last, beautiful spark of creativity before the darkness. A quirky theory even suggested this wasn't imitation, but independent invention, a parallel blossoming of symbolic thought. But the scholarly debate over the Chateauperonian is fierce. More recent analysis suggests that the archaeological layers in these caves might be mixed up, a jumble of Sapiens and Neanderthal occupations that make it look like one group was using the other's technology. Some argue the ornaments were made by Sapiens and simply scavenged or traded by Neanderthals. Others maintain the evidence for Neanderthal authorship is strong. The question remains, was this their final brilliant flourish, a testament to their own evolving minds? Or was it the sad cultural echo of a people trying to copy the powerful new magic of the invaders who were replacing them? We may never know for sure, but the image of a Neanderthal artisan carefully carving a pendant to imitate the jewelry of the newcomers is a powerful and tragic one. You find one of their last refuges, a cave system at the very southern tip of Spain, at Gibraltar. Here, buffered by the mild coastal climate, a small population of Neanderthals survived until perhaps as recently as 28,000 years ago. They would have looked out over the sea towards the coast of Africa, the original homeland of the people who had now claimed the rest of their world. They were truly backed into a corner, with nowhere left to retreat. In these Gibraltar caves, we find some of the most compelling evidence of their complex minds. We find evidence they hunted seals and dolphins, showing a mastery of marine resources. We find eagle talons, just like the ones you saw tens of thousands of years ago, still being used as ornaments. And we find those controversial abstract engravings on the cave floor, the so-called Neanderthal hashtag. This was their last sanctuary. For a few more centuries, they endured. But the world was closing in. Their populations were now so small and fragmented that inbreeding was likely becoming a serious problem, a genetic death spiral from which there was no escape. The final extinction was probably not a dramatic battle on the beach, but a quiet, lonely petering out. A final hunting party that never returned. A winter that was just 1 degree too cold. The last Neanderthal may have died alone, the last speaker of their language, the last keeper of their ancient traditions, looking out at a world that no longer had a place for them. The silence they left behind was absolute. For the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, there was only one kind of human in Europe, and that human was you. The long, lonely reign of the Ice Age kings was over. Your own was just beginning. The silence you feel in the valleys of Europe echoes across the entire planet. The Great Vanishing is not just a European story. As the last Neanderthal campfires grow cold, the other human worlds across Asia are also fading into twilight, their stories even more fragmented and mysterious. The ghosts of the other humans are retreating into the shadows of history, a collection of tantalizing cold cases for your descendants to puzzle over. What happened to the Denisovans? We know them from a handful of bones and a powerful genetic legacy, but their archaeological footprint is almost invisible. They were clearly a vast and successful population, stretching from the freezing altitudes of Tibet to, as their DNA in modern Melanesian suggests, the humid jungles of Southeast Asia. Yet, they seem to vanish from the world stage without a final act. There is no Denisovan Gibraltar, no dramatic last stand that we can point to. Their disappearance is a quiet, slow-motion mystery. The leading theory is that their fate was much the same as the Neanderthals, a story of absorption and replacement. As your Sapiens ancestors spread through Asia, they met, interacted with, and interbred with the Denisovans. In fact, genetic evidence suggests there were at least two major, distinct pulses of interbreeding. This implies a long period of coexistence, a complex frontier that may have lasted for tens of thousands of years. In some places, sapiens may have simply outcompeted them, our larger social networks and more adaptable technology allowing us to exploit resources more efficiently. In other places, the lines may have blurred completely, with Denisovan groups being slowly and peacefully assimilated into the expanding sapiens population, their unique culture and biology dissolving into our own. Unlike the Neanderthals, who seem to have been pushed to the geographic fringes, the Denisovans may have simply been swamped, a demographic tide that they could not resist. Their final whispers are found in the genetics of modern people. While most non-African populations carry a trace of Neanderthal DNA, some people in Melanesia, Papua New Guinea, and Australia carry a much higher percentage, up to 5%, of Denisovan DNA. This is a stunning clue. It suggests that the last major interaction between our species happened somewhere in Southeast Asia, as our ancestors were making their final push towards Australia. This leads to a quirky and mind-bending possibility: the last pure. Denisovans may not have lived in that Siberian cave at all, but perhaps on an island like New Guinea, where they persisted until as recently as 20,000 or 30,000 years ago, long after the last Neanderthal had vanished from Europe. The search for a Denisovan skull, the fossil that would finally give a face to these ghosts, is one of the holy grails of modern paleoanthropology. And what of the little people, the Hobbits of Flores? Their story has a different, more tragic finality. As an island-dwelling species, their fate was sealed by their isolation. They were incredibly well adapted to their unique world, but that specialization was a trap. They had no vast continent to retreat across, no social network to call on for aid. When your sapiens ancestors finally mastered the sea crossings and arrived on Flores around 50,000 years ago, the Hobbits' world was shattered. The scholarly debate here centers on how quickly the end came. Was it a swift, violent conflict? Unlikely. There's no battlefield lair in Liangbua Cave. A more plausible scenario involves the grim 1-2 punch you've seen before. First, the invisible killers. You would have introduced a host of mainland diseases to which the islanders had zero immunity. A simple sapiens cold could have been a deadly epidemic for them. Second, superior competition. You arrived with your sophisticated projectile weapons, your nets, your traps, You were a new, hyper-efficient predator on an island ecosystem that had been stable for 1 million years. You would have hunted the pygmy stegodons and other animals far more effectively, collapsing the food web upon which the hobbits depended. Their extinction was likely a rapid, brutal affair, not of direct violence, but of ecological devastation. The last hobbit probably starved in a forest that was suddenly, inexplicably empty. The great vanishing swept through every corner of the human world. The last remnants of the ancient Homo erectus dynasty in Java, the enigmatic Homo luzonensis in the Philippines, all of them disappear from the fossil record in the period following your arrival. The pattern is too consistent to be a coincidence. Everywhere your species went, the other human species vanished. It's a heavy, unsettling realization. You, the fragile newcomer, the unlikely conqueror, have become the sole heir to a planet that was once a rich tapestry of human diversity. You stand in the silence on a world that has been swept clean of all your rivals and relatives. But as you look down at your own hands, you are about to discover the greatest secret of all. They never truly left. You are standing alone, the last human. The world feels immense, silent, and empty. The ghosts of your cousins, the powerful Neanderthal, the mysterious Denisovan, the tiny hobbit, have all faded into memory. You believe you are the pure-blooded victor, the sole survivor of a long and brutal competition. But you are wrong. The greatest secret, the final, stunning plot twist of the entire human story, is that you are not alone at all. The evidence was never in the dirt or the caves. It has been hiding inside of you all along, written in the spiraling, microscopic script of your own DNA. You are a living fossil. You are a walking, talking ghost story. For a century after we first discovered Neanderthal fossils, we saw them as a completely separate, extinct species, an evolutionary dead end. The idea that we could have interbred was often dismissed with a slightly condescending laugh. It was biologically unthinkable, a violation of the neat branching lines of our family tree. And then, in 2010, the same year the Denisovans were discovered, the first full draft of the Neanderthal genome was published. When scientists compared it to the genomes of modern humans, they found the bombshell. Everyone whose ancestry traces back to outside of Africa carries fragments of Neanderthal DNA. The unthinkable was true. They weren't just a dead branch. They were a stream that had flowed back into our river. This is the ghost in your genes. That 1 to 4% of your DNA that is Neanderthal isn't just junk. It's a functional, working part of you, a genetic inheritance that has shaped who you are in subtle but profound ways. It's a quirky and intimate form of time travel. A Neanderthal who died 50,000 years ago passed on a gene to their hybrid child, who passed it to their child, and so on, through thousands of generations, a microscopic baton in a relay race through history that ends with you. So what did you inherit from them? Many of the Neanderthal genes that have survived in our genome are related to our immune system. You encountered a whole new set of local pathogens. The Neanderthals had been building up immunity to these bugs for hundreds of thousands of years. Interbreeding with them was a brilliant evolutionary shortcut. You didn't have to wait for your own immune system to adapt. You could just borrow the genes from the locals. It was a genetic software update that helped you survive in a new land. Some of your genes that help fight off viruses, like the flu, are a direct gift from your Neanderthal ancestors. They also gave you adaptations to the different environment. Some Neanderthal genes are associated with skin and hair traits. They likely helped our African ancestors adapt to the lower levels of ultraviolet light in northern latitudes. So, if you have fair skin that burns easily or a certain type of reddish hair, you might have a Neanderthal to thank for it. It's a slightly sarcastic gift, perhaps, the gift of sunburn, but it was an important part of adjusting to a new climate. One mainstream historical fact is that these genetic contributions are not evenly distributed. Different modern populations have inherited different bits and pieces of the Neanderthal genome, creating a complex mosaic of ancient ancestry across the globe. But not all of the inheritance was good. It's a classic case of what works in one context can be a problem in another. Some Neanderthal gene variants are associated with an increased risk for modern afflictions like type 2 diabetes, Crohn's disease, and lupus. One variant has been linked to a tendency for blood to clot more quickly. In the dangerous life of an Ice Age hunter, where deep wounds were common, a faster clotting factor would have been a life-saving advantage. In your modern, sedentary life, that same gene can increase your risk of stroke and deep vein thrombosis. A life-saving adaptation in their world has become a potential health risk in yours. The scholars' debate still rages about the full extent of this genetic legacy, with new papers being published every month linking these ancient genes to everything from our sleep patterns to our susceptibility to certain allergies. And the Denisovans are in there too. As you know, their genetic echo is loudest in the peoples of Oceania. That high-altitude gene that helps Tibetans thrive is the most famous example of a Denisovan gift, a clear case of adaptive introgression, where borrowing a gene from another species gives you a massive survival advantage. Other Denisovan genes found in modern humans seem to be related to the immune system, again suggesting that interbreeding was a key strategy for adapting to new local diseases. What this all means is that the story of replacement is far too simple. We didn't just wipe them out. We met them, we learned from them, and we loved them. We absorbed them. You are a hybrid. Humanity is a hybrid. We are the product of these ancient encounters on the frontiers of our expansion. In a very real sense, the Neanderthals and Denisovans never truly went extinct. They simply survive in a new form. As a minority shareholder in the great sprawling enterprise of Homo sapiens. So the next time you look in the mirror, remember the face you see is not the whole story. You are looking at a deep history that stretches back not just through your sapiens lineage, but incorporates the strength of the Neanderthals and the resilience of the Denisovans. You are a testament to their survival, a living monument to a time when many kinds of humans walked the earth. The silence of the planet is a little less profound, a little less lonely, when you realize you carry the echoes of their voices within your very cells. You stand on a hill and look out. The sun is setting. Below you, the lights of a city are beginning to twinkle on, a vast, glittering network of campfires that your ancestors could never have dreamed of. There are 8 billion of you now. You have walked on the moon. You have split the atom. You have built a global civilization that connects every corner of the planet. Of all the human species that ever were, only one remains. You are the last human standing. As you've journeyed through this long-lost world, you have seen that there was no single reason, no one magic bullet. It was a perfect storm of advantages, a convergence of factors that played out over 50,000 years. Your ancestors were not necessarily smarter in an individual sense. A Neanderthal was likely your intellectual equal, but you were collectively smarter. This unlocked the ability to cooperate flexibly in large numbers, weaving the great social web that became your ultimate safety net, an information superhighway. Your ancestors were the ultimate generalists, the planetary weeds. While your cousins were specialists, exquisitely adapted to their own worlds, you were the adaptable jack of all trades, armed with a diverse toolkit and a broad diet. You didn't just survive in new environments, you engineered them, building your own shelters, sewing your own clothes, and even forming an alliance with another species, the dog. This flexibility made you incredibly resilient in the face of the violent climate swings that shattered the more specialized worlds of the other humans. When your worlds collided, it was not a simple story of conquest. Yes, there was likely competition and quiet displacement, a demographic tide that slowly overwhelmed the smaller, more fragmented populations of your relatives. But there was also connection. You carry the proof of it in your own DNA. You are the product of ancient love affairs on the frontiers of the world, a hybrid carrying the genetic legacy of those you replaced. And perhaps you carried a darker gift as well, the invisible armies of African pathogens, a plague that your cousins, with their naive immune systems and isolated social structures, could not withstand. And so here you are, the sole heir of a silent planet. For the first time in at least 4 million years of human evolution, there is only one character left on the stage. Think of all that has been lost, the different ways of seeing the world, the different ways of thinking, the different stories that were told around their fires that we will never hear. What would a Neanderthal philosopher have pondered? What kind of music would a Denisovan have made? What myths would a Hobbit have told their children? These are questions that will haunt us forever, the ghosts of alternative humanities that never came to be. For most of our history, we were just one animal among many, our destiny shaped by forces far beyond our control, like climate and competition. But the moment the last of our cousins vanished, everything changed. We became something new. We became the first species in the 4 billion year history of life on Earth to be solely in charge of its own fate and the fate of the planet itself. As you look out over the glittering city, a testament to your incredible success, you can perhaps feel the weight of this unique position. You are the keeper of the entire human legacy, the sole custodian of the spark of consciousness on this planet. It is a lonely and terrifying and wonderful thing to be. You are the last echo of a world that was once loud with the voices of many kinds of humans. You are all that is left. The story of how you got here is the greatest story ever told. What you do next, now that you are alone, is a story that is still being written. The fire has burned down to glowing embers now, casting a soft, warm light. The epic journey through the deep past has come to its end, leaving you here, safe in the quiet of your own time. The echoes of those other human worlds, the sturdy Neanderthals in their icy valleys, the ghostly Denisovans in their mountain caves, the tiny Hobbits on their lost island, can now fade back into the silent earth from which they came. Their stories, once loud with struggle and life, have resolved into a gentle whisper, a trace of their ancient DNA that continues its long, unbroken journey within you. You are the result of all that came before, the final, successful draft of an experiment that had many beautiful, strange, and ultimately fragile versions. The world outside your window is quiet now. The immense, complex web of your own species, humming softly as it dreams. Feel the weight of your own body, a testament to the resilience of your ancestors, a vessel of deep history. Let the vastness of time, the rise and fall of worlds, become a comforting blanket. You are not just a fleeting individual, but the crest of a wave that has been traveling for hundreds of thousands of years, a wave that absorbed all the others and now rolls on, alone, across the shores of this planet. The questions and the mysteries can rest. The struggle is over. There is only peace now, and the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breathing, a sound that has endured through it all. It is time to let go, to drift into the gentle silence, into a sleep as deep and as ancient as the story we have just told.